Hello, whisperers. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy tonight's tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps more than you know. Now, dim the lights, and let's begin tonight's story. The smell of grease sticks to you after a long shift. Doesn't matter how many times you wash your hands or how much you scrub the counter. It seeps into your skin, your clothes, your hair. I'd been mopping around the soda machine, trying not to think about how badly I wanted a shower and a cigarette when the phone rang. I froze. It was almost midnight. Nobody orders pizza this late out here. Not unless they're drunk or high or too desperate to care. The fluorescent light above the counter hummed so loud I thought it might pop, and for a second I considered ignoring the call, letting it ring until the machine picked up. But the boss was still in his office, half watching the security cameras while counting the drawer, and I knew he'd hear it. So I picked up. "Tony's," I said, trying to sound cheerful. On the other end, just breathing, a wet sort of static breath, like someone dragging air through a busted pipe. Then finally a man's voice, low, rough, almost painful. "Too large. Extra meat." That was it. No name, no number, just a flat voice, and those 3 words. I asked the usual questions. Address, delivery time, cash or card. He rattled off the street without hesitation. I wrote it down, squinting at the receipt printer as it coughed out a smudged strip of paper. I checked the system for a callback number, blank. When I glanced through the little office window, the boss was watching me. He leaned out. "What's that?" "Order. Now." I held up the receipt. The address was ugly, written in faint black ink that looked like it had been rubbed with a thumb before drying. My chest tightened when I realized I didn't even recognize the street name. "Guy wants 2 larges," I said. "Extra meat, didn't leave a number." The boss came out smelling of coffee and sweat. He was a stocky guy in his 50s with gray stubble and a permanent scowl, like someone had carved lines into his face and forgot to smooth them out. He snatched the receipt from my hand and squinted. "That's over in Hillside." "Where's that?" He jabbed the paper. "Out past the highway. Near those apartments. Real dump." I laughed nervously. "That's like a 45-minute drive." "Yep." He smirked. "Good thing you're still on the clock." I stared at him. "You can't be serious." "My shift's over in..." I checked the clock. 3 minutes. "Then call it overtime." "You want hours, right?" He shoved the receipt back at me, already turning to the ovens. "I'll get the pies started." I muttered under my breath, something about how nobody tips on 45-minute deliveries, but he didn't care. The shop was dead quiet after that. Fryer off, kitchen lights dimmed. Just me bagging pizzas while the boss scribbled notes in the back. The mop bucket sloshed as I wheeled it away. Every sound was too loud in the empty building. The snap of cardboard, the squeak of my sneakers, the hum of the neon open sign that we'd forgotten to switch off. When the pizzas came out, steam curling from greasy cheese and sausage. I slid them into the insulated bag and zipped it up. My hands were trembling a little, probably just the caffeine and exhaustion, but I couldn't stop staring at the address. The letters seemed wrong somehow. Smudged, yeah, but also crooked, as if the printer had hiccuped halfway through. The number 3 was repeated twice, then scratched over with ink. 3C. I don't know why that stuck with me, but it did. The boss finally came back out, tossing me the keys to the delivery car we all shared. Beat-up Corolla with a dented bumper and a cracked air freshener shaped like a pine tree. He leaned against the counter while I shouldered the bag. "You'll be fine," he said. "You ever been out there?" I asked. "Once." He scratched his chin. "Didn't like it. Lot of dogs, weird smell. But hey, pizza's pizza." I forced a laugh. "Yeah, sure, pizza's pizza." He gave me a look, not friendly, not mean, just tired, like he was too old to care whether I made it back or not. As I headed for the door, he called after me, "Don't take the elevator. It's busted. Stairs only." I stopped. "What elevator?" He shrugged, already turning off the lights in the back. "You'll see." The bell above the door jingled as I pushed into the night. Air sharp with cold, streets slick with drizzle. My breath fogged the windshield as I started the car, receipt trembling between my fingers. I stuffed it into the visor, telling myself it was just another delivery, just another late-night weirdo too lazy to cook. But I couldn't shake the sound of that voice on the phone, the way it scraped at the line, wet and raw. "Too large. Extra meat." Like he was ordering more than just pizza. The road out of town always feels longer at night. I'd driven it before, back when I still hung out with people who liked to sneak beer down by the quarry, but that was years ago. Tonight it stretched on like it didn't want to end, a thin strip of cracked asphalt splitting the dark woods in half. The Corolla's headlights were weak and yellow, barely cutting through the drizzle. Radio gave out after 10 minutes. First static, then silence, so all I had was the hum of the engine and the rhythmic squeak of the wipers. I told myself it was just a delivery, 45 minutes out, drop the pizzas, back in time to grab a smoke before bed. Easy, except the GPS on my phone wouldn't stop rerouting. Every time I thought I was getting closer, the little blue dot jittered, spun, then sent me down another road. Twice it tried to loop me back toward town. When I pulled over to check the address again, the smudged numbers on the receipt seemed worse than before, like the ink had bled further. I flicked the dome light off and sat there for a moment, fingers tapping the wheel, telling myself not to be an idiot. The boss said Hillside Apartments. That was the landmark. I knew roughly where it was, even if the streets around it were a blur. So I kept driving. The further I went, the fewer houses there were. Street lamps got scarce, then disappeared altogether, leaving me with nothing but the trees pressing close to the road. At one point, I passed a half-collapsed gas station. Its sign groaned in the wind, advertising fuel at prices from years ago. Something darted across the road ahead, low, fast, on four legs. I slammed the brakes and felt my chest slam into the seatbelt. My headlights caught it for less than a second. Shaggy fur, hunched shoulders, eyes reflecting yellow before it vanished into the brush. Does no one bring in their fucking dogs? I asked myself, noting the obvious rain. The smell lingered. Wet fur and something sour underneath, like meat left too long in the sun. I drove slower after that. Couldn't help it. Every shadow looked like it was moving. The drizzle picked up into steady rain, and the sound of it on the roof made my stomach clench. By the time I saw the apartment building, I was gripping the wheel hard enough that my knuckles ached. Hillside. It didn't look like any place I'd want to live. 4 stories of crumbling brick, most of the windows boarded or broken, graffiti curling up the walls. A chain-link fence sagged half open, as if someone had tried to close the place off, but gave up. I parked close to the front, under a flickering lamp that buzzed like an angry insect. The Corolla shuddered when I turned it off, headlights cutting out and leaving the whole building looming over me in the dark. For a minute I just sat there, staring at the black windows. Some of them had curtains, but they were drawn tight, not a hint of light behind them. Others were just gaping holes, glass shards catching the rain. The pizza bag sat heavy in the passenger seat, heat seeping through the fabric. My receipt fluttered in the visor when I pulled it down again. Smudged ink, still crooked, but clear enough to make my stomach twist. Apartment 3C, 3rd floor, end of the hall. I took a deep breath, shoved the bag under my arm, and opened the door. Rain slapped against me, soaking through my jacket in seconds. The lot was half full, but the cars looked abandoned. Flat tires, busted windows, one with a tree branch resting on the hood. The front doors of the building stood cracked open, one hanging from a broken hinge. I pushed inside, blinking as the smell hit me. Mildew, stale cigarettes, and underneath it, that same wet fur stink from the road. Stronger now. The lobby was lit by a single bare bulb swinging from a wire. Water dripped from the ceiling, pooling across the cracked tiles. The elevator stood in the corner, doors sealed shut with a strip of caution tape. Don't take the elevator. It's busted. The boss's voice echoed in my head. I tightened my grip on the bag. Somewhere above me, floorboards groaned, heavy, slow, like something pacing. I swallowed hard, looked toward the stairwell, and told myself I was just imagining it. Just another delivery. Just pizza. And I started to climb. The stairwell smelled worse than the lobby. Damp concrete, mold, and that animal stink clinging to every breath. Each step groaned under my weight, echoing up and down the shaft. The pizza bag dug into my shoulder, heavier than it had any right to be. 2nd floor landing. A door cracked open as I passed, and I caught a pale face staring at me. An old woman, hair hanging in greasy strings. She whispered something I couldn't hear. Before I could ask, she shut the door, bolted it loud enough to make me flinch. By the time I reached the third floor, my shirt was sticking to my back with sweat. The hall stretched long and narrow, yellow wallpaper peeling like scabs. Lights flickered overhead, buzzing. I scanned the numbers. 3A, 3B. The carpet was damp beneath my sneakers. Dark stains trailed from one end of the hall to the other. At first I thought it was water damage, but when I crouched, I saw the smears were brown, almost black. Streaks, dried, cracked, blood. I froze, heart hammering. My brain told me to turn around, get back in the car, and drive until this place was just a bad dream in the rear view, but my legs carried me forward anyway, like I didn't have a choice. Apartment 3C. The number was nailed crooked to the door, the letter practically hanging off the door, one screw hanging loose. Claw marks raked down the wood around the knob, deep enough to splinter. The smell was unbearable here. Wet carpet and piss, thick enough to taste. I knocked. At first, nothing, just silence. Then, breathing, heavy, wet, dragging air through broken lungs. I swallowed. Pizza delivery. My voice cracked. A pause, then low and strained. Slide it. Through. My stomach dropped. There was a mail slot near the bottom of the door, rusted and bent. I crouched, balancing the bag on one knee, and opened it. Darkness stared back. The smell pouring out nearly made me gag. I shoved one box partway in. A hand shot out. Long fingers, knuckles swollen, skin torn in places to reveal coarse black hair pushing through. The nails were thick and yellow, cracked at the tips. They snatched the box and yanked it inside with a force that rattled the hinges. I froze, my chest so tight I couldn't breathe. Then I heard it. Not chewing, not eating, but bones popping, joints grinding, wet cracks echoing through the apartment. A low moan turned into a growl, deeper than any voice I'd ever heard, the kind of sound that vibrates in your spine. The door shuddered. Once, twice. Something heavy slammed against it, shaking dust from the ceiling. I staggered back. The pizza bag slipped from my shoulder and thumped to the floor. From inside, a scream ripped out, half human, half animal. Furniture scraped, glass shattered, and then claws. I heard claws dragging down the inside of the door, screeching like knives. I stumbled toward the stairs, nearly tripping over the bag. Left it there, didn't care. The door behind me boomed, wood cracking under the weight of whatever was hurling itself against it. I didn't wait to see if it would hold. I ran. Down the hall, past the stained carpet and flickering lights, past the door where the old woman had been, now silent and dark. The air shook with another impact. My ears rang from the sound. At the stairwell, I risked one glance back. The door to 3C had bowed outward, wood splintering, the mail slot dangling open. From inside, two glowing eyes stared at me, furious, unblinking. And then the door frame snapped. I didn't wait to see more. I tore down the stairs, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd black out. The sound of claws and growls echoing above me, closer with every second. The stairwell echoed with every footstep, each slam of my sneakers bouncing back at me like gunshots. I gripped the railing so hard my knuckles burned, nearly vaulting the steps two at a time. Above me, something crashed through the hall, splintering wood, breaking glass, claws scraping concrete as it moved. Too heavy, too fast. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. I couldn't stop muttering, lungs straining, throat raw. Second floor. I hit the landing hard enough my knee buckled, almost sending me tumbling. A door opened halfway down the hall. Some guy in a tank top, hair matted with sweat. He shouted something, but before I could answer, the wall above us exploded outward. A blur slammed into him, dragging him screaming back through his own doorway. His voice cut short with a wet snap. Blood sprayed across the hall. I didn't stay to watch. The sound of chewing followed me down the stairs. I tore around the corner, my shoes slipping on the damp concrete. Claw marks raked the walls behind me, closer with every second. The smell of it, hot, metallic, animal, filled the stairwell until it was all I could breathe. First floor. I hit the lobby like a car crash, shoulder clipping the door frame. The bare bulb still swung above, shadows whipping across the cracked tiles. The front doors, almost there. Behind me, the stairwell shook as something thundered down. A guttural snarl rolled out, deep enough to rattle my ribs. I slammed into the doors and burst into the rain, sucking cold air into my burning lungs. The parking lot stretched wide and empty, cars like broken teeth in the dark. My Corolla waited under the flickering lamp, keys already in my hand. I sprinted, legs rubbery, vision tunneling. The roar that followed shook the building. Windows rattled. Something massive slammed into the door behind me. I didn't dare look. I dove into the driver's seat, slammed the lock down, jammed the key into the ignition. My hands were shaking too hard to turn it. Come on, come on, come on. The engine coughed. Died. My breath fogged the windshield. Rain streaked down in thin silver lines. For a heartbeat, the world went still. Then I saw it, up on the second floor, in the gaping black hole where 2A's window should have been. A hulking silhouette pressed against the frame, crouched low, glowing eyes burning down at me, its head tilted, jaw wide enough to split its face, teeth flashing in the light. Blood and gore dripped from the window. A clawed hand raked down the window as I desperately turned the key. The engine roared to life. I slammed it into reverse, tires squealing as I nearly clipped a rusted-out sedan. The thing in the window lunged, glass exploding outward. I hit the gas, headlights sweeping across the front doors just in time to see them shatter outward. For half a second I caught it in full view, towering, covered black with blood, claws longer than my fingers. Rain hit its back in silver streaks as it landed on all fours, shaking the ground. Then I was gone, fishtailing out of the lot, the Corolla's engine screaming as I floored it. In the mirror, I saw it give chase, powerful strides that closed the distance too fast, too easy. My chest tightened until I thought I'd black out, but the road opened up ahead, slick with rain, and the tires caught enough traction to hurl me forward. Headlights flashed over trees, broken fences, 1,000 shadows. I didn't let go of the wheel, didn't blink, didn't breathe. Mile by mile, the mirror showed less and less. First glowing eyes, then a hulking shape in the road, then nothing at all. But I kept checking every 5 seconds, certain it was still there, just outside the edge of the light. The drive back felt endless. Rain smeared the windshield into streaks of silver, wipers squealing uselessly. I kept checking the mirror, headlights painting the same empty road, but I couldn't shake the thought that something was running just outside the beam, keeping pace, waiting for me to slow. Every shadow between the trees looked like shapes, every flash of lightning like teeth. I didn't stop, didn't breathe right until the town lights came back into view. By the time I pulled into Tony's, my hands hurt from gripping the wheel. The neon open sign still burned red against the wet pavement, buzzing faintly. I killed the engine and just sat there, chest heaving, forehead pressed against the steering wheel. It was over. Had to be over. Inside, the shop smelled the same as always: grease, tomato sauce, the faint tang of bleach from the mop bucket. Too normal, too bright. The boss was behind the counter, counting out bills, his reading glasses low on his nose. He didn't even look up at first. "You took long enough," he muttered. "What? They pay you in change?" My throat felt raw, like I'd been screaming the whole drive. I dropped the pizza bag onto the counter. The thud made him flinch. He frowned, finally glancing up. The bag's zipper was torn, the corners shredded, and across the red fabric were long black streaks, claw marks, deep enough to rip the insulation. The receipt poked out from the side, smeared with something dark and dried. "What the hell happened to this?" he asked, voice sharp now. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. My lips trembled, jaw working, but the words wouldn't form. All I could hear was that voice over the phone, low, broken, hungry. "Too large, extra meat." The boss shook his head, muttering about drivers who couldn't take care of company property. He shoved the bag aside and went back to his cash drawer, like nothing had happened. I clocked out with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, didn't argue, didn't explain. When I finally spoke, my voice didn't sound like mine. "I'm never delivering to apartment 3C again." He didn't answer, didn't care. I stepped back into the night, rain easing into mist, streets washed clean but too quiet. The Corolla sat under the buzzing lamp, engine ticking as it cooled. I slid inside, shut the door, and just sat there. Dawn was a thin gray line on the horizon when I finally drove home. Every intersection, every passing car, every shadow that shifted in the rear view made my chest seize. I half expected to see glowing eyes burning in the dark, watching, waiting. I never stopped listening for claws on concrete. And I don't think I ever will.